All right, so hello everyone and good morning. So in today's video, we're going to be having a chat with Chisom, who is currently a recruiter with Jobberman. Hi Chisom, I'm so excited to have you here today. So do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Right. Thank you very much, Rhoda, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So my name is Chisomosu. I work with Jobberman Nigeria, and I currently lead the team of recruiters. Um, what we do basically is we work with our clients cutting across various industries and sectors, work with them to meet their recruitment needs, filling the number of positions that they have available with the most suitable candidates. So Jobberman's mission or vision in Nigeria is to be the to bridge the talent gap, connect individuals, talented individuals with fantastic opportunities across the globe. And we also are involved in developing talent as well. So that's what we do. So my day to day basically is work with my clients to find the best talent for their open roles.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. So we're particularly going to be talking about CVs because you're the expert here. I'm sure that because you are a
Ah,
recruiter, you have
expert.
yeah, but because you're a recruiter, I'm sure that you've been able to kind of like go through a lot of CVs over the years and you have some ideas on the best practices, which is why I thought that you'd be the perfect fit to kind of talk about this subject. So the first question that I have for you is what are the key elements that you think makes a CV stand out? So let's say you are recruiting for a role, for example, and you're kind of going through a couple of CVs. What do you think would be on the CV that would make you think, this person seems to have something outstanding as compared to, say, every other person's CV that you're kind of looking at for a particular role?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Rhoda. And disclaimer, I'm no expert, but always constantly learning and constantly
Hmm.
growing. Right. Okay, so to answer the question, again, I'll be speaking from my perspective. Every recruiter has their own style, their own unique style. Yes, we all have the basic template we're working with, which would be your job description or job requirements, but everyone has their own style of what to look out for in a CV. For me, I would just say there are two things that stand out to me: the CV presentation and then the content of the CV. So think an individual trying to make a presentation to an audience, right? You need to make a good first impression with your appearance and your speech, your mannerisms, and even the slides that you'll be showing. But again, you have to have valuable content, knowledge to share, right? So that's what I think of when I look at a CV. It needs to look good and it also needs to show that this individual has some value to bring to the organization. So when I think of presentation, of course, the formatting of the CV, it just needs to come clean. For me, simplicity works for me. I tend to gravitate more towards CVs that are properly, constructed, nice paragraphs, nice sections, nice formats and fonts, very little or no tables, columns, and all of that, all of those, effigy, like we say. Right. I would even say if you're in the creative industry or you are someone like a dev, a developer that has a lot of projects and all of that, you want to showcase, please do that in like a link to your portfolio. Go crazy in your portfolio. But on the CV, keep it clean, keep it neat. Let everything just stand out in sections so someone can see at a glance that, oh, this individual did this, that. Then the content, right? Of course, it has to speak to the job that you're applying for. You have to showcase the skills that you have. For me, skills section and then the work experience are the two sections I typically would look out for first. The skills section and then the work experience. I want to see what skills you have that you'll be bringing to the table. Um, when I talk about skills, of course, not just the technology you use, but also the other soft skills that you have acquired as part of your experience that you'd be, bringing to the table in the role. So all of this put in a very clean format with proper use of white space, not too cluttered, not too verbose. Once I see those kinds of CVs, I'm excited to then spend a little bit more time on them.
Okay, great answer. Okay, so let's say, for example, there is someone who is an entry level staff or someone who is just say recent graduate and trying to apply to a role, but they do not have any experience. So I think one of the questions I typically get is that, okay, how do I write my CV if I don't have any experience? So what should say a graduate trainee's CV, what should it look like?
Okay. So, very interestingly, I had someone join my team recently that was very green, a very fresh graduate, no work experience whatsoever. It was just school, and then he was applying for the internship position. And what struck me on his CV was he was able to articulate what he had learned over the years. So for him, it was about showing that I have a strong interest in this discipline, and this is what I have done to position myself to get a foot in the door in this discipline. So he was able to demonstrate the learnings. He had taken courses and he was able to summarize briefly what he had learned. He was able to showcase, okay, this is what I did, some activities that I did in school that could be related to this, discipline, to this role. Basically, that was it. For me, I would advise a young graduate to show three things on their CV. You want to show that you have a strong interest in the role that you're applying for, or the career path that you're looking to get into. Then, secondly, you need to demonstrate that you have a great attitude, right? It needs to come across on your CV that you're someone that takes up responsibility, takes initiative. You are self-led. You're not waiting to be spoon-fed or anything. Then the third one would be that you have a learning orientation. You need to show what you have learned. Show that you're constantly trying to develop yourself, trying to build the skills and the knowledge and the abilities that would position you for a role in that particular discipline. So those are the things that I would advise. And then on your CV, of course, you don't have, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see a young graduate CV 3 pages long or four. Typically, a fresh graduate would have a 1 to 2 pager. And for me, that's actually the standard. I would say a 1 to 2 pager CV for a fresh graduate one. But of course, every other regular person would be a 2 pager. Then, of
Okay,
course, there are some professionals that have 20 years experience and all of that, or academics. Those tend to be a lot longer, but the standard would be 2 to 3. I mean, 1 to 2, 1 to 2 pages.
awesome. That kind of leads me to my next question, because I was going to ask you what is the ideal number of pages for your CV, because I've seen it online a couple of times that, oh, if you have less than 5 years experience, you don't have any business having a two-page CV and those kind of things. So I wanted to ask what your opinion is on that.
For me, I would focus more on the content of the CV, because if a CV is interesting, it's showing me what I'm looking for. I'm not that bothered about the length, but of course, there's always doing too much. I would say a 2 pager would be standard, right? You would summarize all that you want to communicate in as concise a manner as possible and keep it, say, 2 pages. For me, 2 pages would be the standard. Of course, some people would spill into three, depending on the length of the experience and what actually they're trying to showcase. But I would say that topic, focusing on the number of pages, shouldn't be that important. It should be about, the discussion should be about what value do I have that I want to showcase.
So you had mentioned earlier that one of the most important sections for you on a CV is the experience, and I think you mentioned the skills section as well. So how important is the use of numbers when you are kind of quantifying your experiences on your?
For me, that is what shows that you actually did that. You actually did that. You actually carried out the work that you're saying you did, and that you added value. Your presence in that organization made an impact, on their bottom line. I would say it's very important to quantify, especially for some kinds of roles, like a sales role, for instance, a sales role or some lead roles. You need to be able to show how what you did translated to either revenue or significant positive impact on the organization. So I typically would advise everyone to try to include metrics in your CV, whatever you can quantify, because that's what makes it hard. Sort of every other thing is like a story you're telling, oh, a very, very nice story, but the hard facts, the data what did you achieve? How did that contribute positively to the organization, and use numbers for that. So of course some people would go overboard and just cook up some numbers. Oh, I came up with this initiative that translated to 30% increase in revenue. And then I ask you, okay, what was the revenue when you started and what did it end up at? And you can't give me those figures. So you have to be authentic, of course, when you're using those numbers, but metrics and quantifying is very, very important. Very important.
Exactly. I totally agree. It has to be a number that you can kind of answer questions on when you're being interviewed
Defend,
for.
yes.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree with that. Okay, so my next question is about ATS. I'm not sure if using ATS is like a big practice now in Nigeria, but I know that a lot of say international organizations, if you're applying for global opportunities, would typically use an ATS because of kind of the number of candidates that will kind of apply to the role. How popular would you say is the use of ATS in Nigeria, and how can candidates who are applying to roles where the employers are using ATS, how can they kind of say position themselves so that they are able to kind of get screened and shortlisted despite the ATS that is being used?
Okay, so to address the questions, I would say that the use of ATS has grown in popularity in Nigeria. Very many organizations use different kinds of ATS. Some use custom ATS, some use the regular enterprise ones, and even SMEs. For instance, Jobberman is a platform that offers the ATS to our employers. So if you're an SME, you do not have the ATS, you can use the Jobberman platform for it. And so there are a lot of myths surrounding the ATS. People say, the ATS will automatically screen you out. You must use keywords and all of that. And I just want to debunk that. The ATS is simply a tool, project management tool, basically to organize the candidate's data and make it easy to track projects, recruitment projects, and all of that stuff. Now, what happens is when you apply through a portal called ATS, some organizations for each role, their criteria for the role, right? So some organizations would have said, okay, you have to have a 2-1 based on their internal policies. You have to have a bachelor's degree, a 2-1 or a first class. You must have so number of years of experience in this particular discipline and all of that. So certain criteria. Now, what happens is the recruiter, when trying to review applications typically just sets those filters to screen for candidates that meet those criteria. So the very first step for anyone who's applying to a role is ensuring that your experience, your skills, and qualifications are aligned to the requirements for the position. That automatically puts you in line to be selected for screening. So say the organization has said, based on our internal policy, we would like individuals with a minimum of 3 years experience. Trust me, even in their internal screening, they will typically review 2 years and above, right? They will not just say had three and just screen out everyone. So as an applicant or as a candidate looking to apply for the role, if I have 2 years experience, 2 years plus experience, I can apply, and I would definitely be screened. I mean, contacted to be screened if I do meet all of the other criteria. So I would just advise job seekers, make sure that you align as closely as possible to the requirements for the role. Ensure that on your CV, right, when you've done a particular job in a particular discipline, you would be familiar with the terms that are related to that role. Say for a recruiter, you would not see a recruiter's CV without words like interviewing, shortlisting, sourcing, talent attraction strategies, and all of that. You would typically, if you're authentic, you would see yourself using the terminologies that are applied to that discipline as you describe what you've done and the impact that you've made. So it's all about being authentic. It's not just going to ChatGPT to download some keywords and then just looking for a way to put them in your CV. No, it's being authentic, thinking through what you've done and trying to describe it, in as professional a manner as possible. And then you see yourself using all of the keywords that typically would apply to that discipline on your CV. And those are the things that would, make your CV be selected.
Awesome.
I
I
don't
feel
know
like that's
it's how I
also, yeah, I feel like you've been able to also provide some perspective, even for me, as say someone who would probably apply for other roles in the future. Because I generally also had the conception that it was a matter of just having those keywords on your CV. But you've kind of explained that it's kind of like in project management too. And if you meet so it's kind of to, what would I say now? Use the minimum criteria to kind of find the applicants who are eligible. That makes a lot of sense. So you've been able to debunk it even for me as well.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that answer. Moving on away from CV right now, can we just talk about LinkedIn and interviewing just for a bit? So I think the question I have about LinkedIn is that how can
Okay.
candidates position themselves to be more visible on LinkedIn as someone who is actively looking for a new job?
Positioning yourself to be more visible would typically be you becoming more active on the platform, you know, perhaps sharing some content of your own, original content that showcases, maybe what you've learned in certain disciplines or current trends. You're analyzing the trends and bringing your own perspective to it. And then also, apart from you posting original content yourself, interacting with other thought leaders and individuals in the space that you're looking to get into. When you have an intelligent answer, not a chat GPT answer, believe me, I'm not against chat GPT, but I tend to gravitate towards originality and authenticity. That for me really, really works. So when someone comes with a perspective that is, really different and makes a lot of sense, and they can back it up with maybe data to show that they've researched this, they've actually studied it. I tend to go back to look at that person's profile and even maybe make a connection, right? And then, so just also connecting with a lot of people within the space that you're interested in, thought leaders, regular people, just so that you are able to keep having conversations off and on, and then those are the things that would boost your visibility, because I typically would gravitate around the recruitment space, the talent acquisition space. So if I notice that there's someone that's always, somewhere, making a smart comment, bringing a fresh perspective, or posting content that really resonates with me and teaches me something, I would make a connect. I would actually make a connection with the person and try to build a relationship. And also, it must be driven by you. You must be intentional about it. You have to make the effort to build, relationships, networks. You see people bantering themselves on the platform, and that's how you make those connections. And of course, we have chatted a couple of times. I have a role that I know is, linked to what you do. I'll go back, look at your profile, and even actually pitch that role directly to you in the DM. That's how you just position yourself for opportunities. And I would advise everyone to do that. On my team, it's something I really, really am big about. I want my people visible. I want them, you know, sharing content. You must not be a professor to have something to see. I always say, even if you're a fresh graduate, you have that fresh perspective that's not, being tainted by cliches and all of the, it's the way we always do it and all of that. So just share something fresh. My intern does that a lot. He shares something fresh, and I'm always impressed. And people are watching. Someone is always watching, and you never know where they lead.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that answer. Okay, so my kind of next question would be on cold messaging, right? So I have cold messaged in the past. Like I tend to reach out to recruiters, or I have reached out to recruiters in the past in the DMs, but quite a number of people have learned to know how to cold message, right? So how would you say, or what would you say is the best tip that you can give someone who is looking to cold message a recruiter, or they're trying to shoot their shots to get screened for a job role?
Okay, so code messaging is it typically, it requires courage, because there's a high chance that you could get ignored or ghosted, or all of that. But it's something you must do if you're looking for something, right? So I have cold messaged people. I cold message people a lot, candidates that I'm trying to attract for a role. And also, in the past when I was looking for roles myself, I would cold message people. But one thing I would advise again is be intentional and show that you put in an effort. Don't take the lazy way. oh, I'm just reaching out, for an opportunity. Please look at my profile and all of that. No, that's not likely going to get you a positive response. But when you show that you've taken the time to look at that recruiter's profile, to understand the kind of roles that they even recruit for, or the organization that they work for, and also maybe read through some of their posts to see what's their style, what kind of content do they typically share. It shows that you made the effort to try to get to know this person, and then you're reaching out to say, oh, this is what attracted me to your profile. Hey, great job here. Or maybe they got a new role. Congratulations on this. Just then you can segue into the question you would like to ask. And then, so for instance, I post a lot of job opportunities on my timeline, and then someone reaches out to me in the DM. Oh, I'm currently looking for a role. Please look at my profile and, profile me for any role. I have a standard response to that. Please go through my timeline, and if there's any role there that is a fit for your skill and experience, please feel free to apply. Because that tells me that person did not take the time to look through my profile to say, actually, even if I just keep following this person and looking through the jobs, I might actually find. So I would be more open to someone that says, "Hey, thanks for what you do, posting jobs. I think it's great. I found this role you posted so date, and I think I'm actually a great fit for that role." And you immediately do your elevator speech in 2, 3 sentences. And would you mind if I shared, my profile with you directly to review? I've also applied to the role. Do you understand? That tells me that this person has put in a lot of effort, is intentional about it. And I promise you, I will open that CV. And if it's a fit for that role, I will refer it immediately to the recruiters, because that's what I like to see. I like to see that you put in that effort. You're not just taking the lazy way out. You're actually being intentional about getting that role. So I would say cold calling works. It has gotten me a job once, cold messaging, but you have to show intentionality, and you have to show the value that you have, to bring to those positions. And of course, optimizing your
Yeah.
LinkedIn, having nice headshots, have, your headers properly aligned, show a little bit of what you've done and what you're capable of doing right there on your profile. Don't just leave it blank, right? Showcase. If you have a CFA, for instance, and you're applying for some finance related roles, showcase it. Your MBA, your SPHRI, whatever it is, try to showcase the things that make you stand out from every other regular person. And I'm sure that anyone who's actually looking for great candidates would respond to you. I always respond to great candidates. I always do.
Okay. I totally agree with the first thing you said, because even though I'm not a recruiter and people do not send me cold messages, what I've noticed is that because I have a YouTube channel and I have tons of videos on there, people tend to kind of like text me to ask me questions. But something I've noticed is that some people ask you questions that you already have videos on that topic on the channel. So it's then clear that they have
Exactly.
not gone through that they've not gone through those
No,
videos. So it's like it seems as though you're being a little bit lazy. So I totally agree. Makes sense to kind of check the
lazy.
recruiter's post and see if there is anything you can kind of pick up on, and then you can use that when you're kind of speaking to the person or sending a cold message. So I totally agree with that. So thank you very much for that response. So leading on to my final question will be on interviews, right? What would you say? So I would like to ask you for, say, just general tips that can make a candidate stand out during the interview. Say you are interviewing a couple of people for a particular role. What are the tips that would make somebody stand out as they are interviewing?
So one thing I tend to look out for during my interviews um, would be the the candidate's general, how do I put it now, in Gen Z terms, the energy they bring. I like to see you passionate. If you really are interested in this role, you're interested in the discipline, the organization. I want to see it show, right? You are not just laid back and like, oh yeah, well. I want to see you leaning forward, you're meeting my eyes via the computer or whatever it is, and you're passionate. You're talking about what you do because you love what you do and you're good at it. You want to show me, that. hey, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. You need to hire me. So being confident, being passionate, and showing that you bring that energy, and then communicating the value that you have already shown in your previous places of employment or that you intend to bring. So don't just tell stories. There are a lot of people that are great at storytelling, but what have you done that made that organization, better for having you there, right? What impact did you make? So that I can translate and then translate it to my role to say, of course, I'm going to bring this to you should you hire me, right? And then even if you haven't done it before, what efforts or can you show me how you have developed yourself to be able to do this in the future if I hire you, right? So always when I'm conversing with candidates, it's all about understanding who you are, your perspective towards work and this role. What is the motivation for you, to join my organization and do this role? And what value do you have that you would be bringing? Then give me hard data. Don't just tell me stories. Give me concrete examples of, how you solve problems, how you were creative, how you made impact, how you were a great team player. How did you build your team? Who has been better because of you? You know, and all of that. So when you mix all of that up, and then of course look great, and by looking great, I mean don't be sloppily dressed for your interview. Don't have a terrible, a bad hair day, and just ensure that you comport yourself as the professional that you are, and then speak confidently, try to smile, ensure that you come across as someone that we would like to have around us within our organization. And research the role. So if there are specific skills or technologies that have been highlighted as critical to that role, show that you have those skills, show that you can use those technologies, right? And then always have something extra in your interview, because you want to be memorable. You want the panel or whoever it is that is speaking to you to remember you, that, oh, this person, there was something extra about this person. So it could be an anecdote you tell, it could be just something really, really different from your work experience that could, be linked to that role and make you look like you could be a great fit for that role. And then just do your best and hope for the best.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much, Chisom. So that has brought us to the end of um the questions that I had for you. Do you have any other advice that you'd like to give a job searcher or job seeker rather in their job search journey?
Yes, I have something I always say. There's a myth that people have where they say, oh, your destiny is in the hands of a recruiter. Your destiny is in the hands of a recruiter. And I always take the pain to debunk that. Your destiny is actually in your own hands. You determine, how it turns out for you. Right, your first application may not be a yes. The 20th application may not be a yes, but the next one could be, right? As long as you keep putting your best forward. Come from a position of, or from a perspective of, I have value that I could bring to an employer and I want to show it. And yes, many may not see that value, but someone will, someone who is the right fit for me, because it's a two-way thing. Someone who is the right fit for me and I'm the right fit for will see that value and say a yes to me. So always have that confidence that if you're a great candidate, organizations are desperate to have you on their team, and then show that you are. Show that you are. And then keep
Awesome.
a positive mindset. There'll be many no's, but all you need is that one yes, and you will fly with it. And all the best. I'm rooting
Awesome.
for everyone that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if people are looking to kind of follow you on the internet, on LinkedIn, since you said you make a lot of job postings on LinkedIn, how can we find you? Like, what's the full name to find and connect with you?
Right, so I'm Chisom Mosu on LinkedIn and I work at Jobberman Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much once again. It was great to have you on here.